Hi everyone, it's Justine here from House of Mahalo. Good to see you. So today is a little bit of a different video again, because I had a request from one of my subscribers. Hi Evie. She had popped up in the Facebook group the other day saying about the Edith Holden books and how she wasn't sure which one to go for, which one would I recommend, could she see inside type thing. Because when you're looking at like used bookstores, especially online, they only really seem to put the covers of the books on. I've noticed that myself here as well. So I kindly offered that I would do a little bit of a flip through. So I'm going to do a flip through of these two books, the original Country Diary and then the Nature Notes version. And yeah, it just gives us a chance to have a look at the illustrations. I'm sure lots of us have seen them a lot before, but if we haven't, then come see inside. And of course it also gives us an opportunity to have a candle on. Now I always have a candle when I'm writing, but I never do when I'm crafting because I don't trust myself around bits of paper flying around and an open flame. That's just me being clumsy. But I think just flipping through a book we should be fine. So I'm going to start with the original Country Diary one. Just because that's the one we're used to seeing the most of. I believe it was published first, but it was actually written second, which I find interesting. And I will also just say, in the version that I got, so this is a new copy, or a new used copy, that came in the post the other day. And inside was this magazine article from, I believe it's from sort of 2002, because there's a date here for some kind of giveaway at the bottom. And I thought we'd have a little bit of a look at this afterwards as well, because it's an interview with Rowena Stott, who is Edith Holden's great niece. So this is Rowena and this is Edith. And we have her to thank, Rowena, for actually bringing the book to us. The only reason it got published is because of her. So we'll have a look at that in a moment because it does have some very interesting quotes in it. But for now we're going to start with having a look inside the book. So this, I always like to look at the covers as well. So the original book, so this is the Country Diary version, you'll almost always see either a cream manila type colour or an orangey colour, usually with some brown on the spine or some brown detail, because the covers themselves make for really beautiful junk journals as well. So this is a facsimile reproduction of Edith Holden's book from 1906. She was recording plants and animals and flowers and foliage and such like for the children that she was teaching. So shall we have a look inside? So this version has her handwriting. So you'll see it's really, really beautiful handwriting. Whereas the Nature Notes version, which we'll look at in a moment, has text font. The pictures are different, and so really that's why I recommend having both if you're able to find them. So really we're just going to go through and just have a look at the images whilst I coo and guffaw over some of them, I'm sure. And also whilst I try and actually say something that's vaguely useful as well. So as I say, these are the two books. This one and the Nature Notes are the ones that I recommend if you are going to go for anything Edith Holden. It can be tricky price-wise. I think we're luckier over here with how many used copies that are available for us to buy. Now, even over here, we'll pay, a very, very different pricing. I personally would never pay more than £8 a copy. I think that's probably about $11 US dollars. This is one of my most favourite images with these Shire horses in the farmer. Anywho, yeah, I wouldn't pay more than £8, $10, $11 per copy. I think the cheapest I've ever gotten them for is £2 a copy. I actually lucked out with maybe about half an hour from where we live. We have a place called the International Book Barn, and it's a giant converted barn that sells used books. They also have like a vintage antique section, but to be fair, most of their used books are of a vintage age, especially these days, you know. So yeah, we went to the botanical section, my husband and I, and lo and behold, there were 3 copies of Edith Holden, this version, for £2 each. That was it, and I think I struck gold that day. I was very lucky. Online, which is where I bought this copy, I'm looking at more like, yeah, as I say, no more than £8, and yeah, maybe about £5. This one and the other one I got for about £4 each, which I was quite happy with, considering, you know, once you take into account postage over here is about £3 anyway for, you know, sending a couple of books. So I was happy with that. I just wanted to talk about these images because, you know, these birds, swallows, and these sand martins, which I always get confused with swifts, and I'm curious as to whether they're part of the same family. These are my absolute most favourite birds in the whole world. I actually was fortunate enough to see some swifts, so they were the small ones, darting around. We were at a some kind of like I think it was a castle, but it had, you know, it was a grand estate type of castle. And yeah, we were sitting and chilling. I think my husband might have wandered off somewhere to go have a look around whilst I relaxed for a bit. And yeah, I was sitting there, and I don't know, something like 20 swifts were flying through the air, darting and really, really twisting and turning. I love this image too. The May cover page. Chaffinch's nest and eggs in amongst the hawthorn blossom and wild hyacinths. Now, interestingly, the hawthorn blossom, I believe, is the flower or the birth flower for May, at least from what I remember. Yeah, so anyway, we had, yeah, I was watching these swifts, I don't know, diving, were they playing? I'm not sure. It was, yeah, it was magical, it really was. I did manage to take a video, but they were so fast that I just, I don't know. I don't know if the video actually turned out as anything, but yeah. I hope you're enjoying the flip through. I am. So my candle is strawberry scented, and every time I turn the page I'm getting a waft of strawberry scent, which is really very, very nice. Oh, I was just working with this image the other day. So beautiful. So we've got a milkwort, tormentil, and then these are the butterflies mentioned. So smooth heath bed straw, small heath butterfly, and meadow brown butterfly. Aren't her illustrations just absolutely beautiful though? They really are. And the book itself, you get this really beautiful cream toned paper, which I'm hoping the light is picking up, you know, well enough. It's just got a really nice vintage warm tone to it. So yeah, I personally, I'm having a fabulous time right now, just having a look through this book. And this has got to be one of my all-time favourite Edith Holden images, the foxgloves. We have a foxglove growing in our garden, a purple one, and it started growing part wild. We had planted a foxglove last year, but it seemed to shrivel away into nothing, to be honest. And then earlier this year in the spring, I was just out in the garden and I saw a foxglove growing, not in the plant pot, but just behind it in the gravel, which was, I know foxgloves grow wild here. There's somewhere that you can go down in Devon, which is just fields of foxgloves, like it's got to be tens of thousands of foxgloves that you can just wander through. Pink ones mostly, a little bit of white, but mostly pink. Again, I've got photos of it. And yeah, anyway, we had this this foxglove growing in the gravel. So I have popped it back in the pot. If it is related to the original foxglove that we had, then it's back in the pot now. This is another of my favourite images, the thistle. I haven't actually used it yet because I feel like, I don't know, I feel like I want to do something special with it, like have this as the cover of a journal or as a file folder. So I will use that image on the front one day. My birthday month, August. Really beautiful woodlands here, and you can just see the birds down the bottom. They're blended in with the tones and how she does her illustrations, her paintings. I tell you, if I could draw like this, I would be earning a fortune because I just wouldn't want to stop. I'd be doing it all day long. Those beautiful poppies, the common red poppy. It'll be interesting actually to hear. So obviously this book, this diary, is from Edith's time around the UK, mostly actually where we live down here near the Cotswolds area, so Gloucestershire, Somerset, maybe the bit of the Cotswolds moving on into Oxfordshire. A lot of those places is where she's walked around, and you'll see that from her actual diary entries. Yeah, I'd be interested to know whether in the US or further afield, Australia, Canada, other places, you know, do you get the same wildlife? Like, are these images things that you have seen in the wild? Because obviously I recognise a lot of them from my own walks, but I'd be interested to know whether anyone else does recognise them from, you know, real life. This is another of my favourite images. I plan on doing some autumnal, fall-inspired Edith Holden projects later on in the year, and this will definitely come up. So it's funny, she refers to these as chestnuts. So we've got the fruit of the Spanish chestnut and the horse chestnut. Now, I don't know if terminology has changed since the early 1900s, but today here in the UK we call these conkers. Now you can buy chestnuts at fairs. You know, if you go to a fair or a Christmas market, you can buy roasted chestnuts, which are the inside of conkers. But you know, just walking around outside, we would refer to them as conkers, and I think that's probably a British thing more than anything. But just a bit of, yeah. I'm enjoying. I'm having story time right now. Yeah, so this is another beautiful image. I really love the autumnal drawings. Also because you don't see them as often as the spring summer ones. I think less people work with the autumnal images and Edith Holden, but I know a lot of people do, but I think most people do work with spring and summer first. So this is Fruit of Dog Rose, which I believe is the red berries, and then we've got the blackberries, which I love to go blackberry picking. I've done it since I was a little girl. Every year we'll go blackberry picking, and we just pick them off of the brambles, and we can make all kinds of, you know, blackberry pies and blackberry turnovers and things. Obviously washed thoroughly. Here we have the Hazelnuts and Acorns, another of my favourite images. I'm so glad that I was able to get another copy because I love it so much. Here we have the fruit of the elderberry tree and beech. Aren't they beautiful? I'm a lover of the shoulder seasons. So spring and autumn are my favourite seasons of all. Spring for the new beginnings, and you know, the weather starts to come out alive. We have the butterflies around, beautiful flowers growing, and then I'd happily skip summer And then go straight to autumn, where you then get, I mean, look, all of the autumnal colours. Isn't this just amazing? I love this image. I think it might be up there with the foxgloves as my favourite image as well from Edith. They're beautiful. And we're coming to November. Here we have the starling, beautiful jade emerald greens going on there. Toadstools. So as you can see, you get lots of beautiful imagery, but also a lot of her beautiful handwriting, which is great for backgrounds of things. I've done a lot of projects where I use the text and overlay her images on top, and it makes the most beautiful tags and journal cards. The song thrush, lovely. I really do feel like I'm having story time right now. I'm absolutely loving this. So I believe Evie wanted to know as well, I'll just mention another favourite wintry image here, the holly. Yeah, Evie wanted to know as well about other botanical books that I recommend. Now, as you probably know, I have a lot that I can recommend, but there are some that are my absolute firm favourites. I have got some more books on order because I did a lot of dismantling earlier this year. So what I'll aim to do is once they start arriving, I'll do flip throughs like this a little bit more often, just because I think it is a nice video to watch. It's nice to be able to see the inside of the book, and we all approach these types of flip throughs differently, so I'd like to be able to offer that myself. And you know, there are books that I've bought as a complete potluck, and then it actually turned out to be a really amazing book, so I'd like to be able to share those. So I will do that over the coming weeks, but today is all about Edith Holden. And then I just wanted to mention as well here, the Country Diary, this version, she has in the back index lists. So here we have wildflowers found in the neighbourhood of Alton, Warwickshire. So that is just north of where we live here. And you don't get this in the other book. I really like to use these as pages as well. So this is all of the wildflowers that she's seen. And here we have the wild birds that she's seen. I don't believe she's drawn them all, but she has listed them. So there you are. That is the Country Diary of an Edwardian Lady. And now we're going to move on to the nature notes. So as I say, this book, although it was published after the one that you've just seen, this was actually the one that she wrote first. So the first book that you saw earlier was from 1906. This one is 1905. Obviously this is a reproduction, but it's based on her original diaries. So this is the Nature Notes of an Edwardian Lady. And this one, although covers can differ, I've had, the last two versions I've had have been this beautiful dark green with gold inlay, and the spine as well is absolutely beautiful. So I will definitely be turning them into some kind of journal. And the end papers, don't they just scream journal card to you? So here we have the predecessor. As I say, this one is from 1905, based on her original diary. And we say here, it's her personal observations of the nature and wildlife in her native Midlands and on her visits to Devon. And of course, she saw a lot of things in between those counties, which is where my neighbourhood comes in. Okay, so here we are. Let's have a look through here. So again, you get the same cream tones. You do get a little bit of handwriting, but this is really all that you'll see. The rest is in text font, although a lot of it is italicized, so there is still some beauty there as well. But as you can see, you do get this sort of large font, text font. But of course the images, beautiful and different, and for me this is a favourite of mine, this book, because you see a lot of the original Country Diary images, not so much the Nature Notes images. They do appear a little bit less frequently. So for me, who watches a lot of YouTube, who crafts a lot, seeing these images is refreshing to me. And I feel like the style of her artwork is different between the 2 years as well. Maybe I suppose this one came first, so maybe she grew in her skills over time. But yeah, as you can see, there's a lot of similarities between images. Like in the last book, we did have a winterberry image, but they are different. The blue tits in the trees there. February. Just trying to think of other stories I can tell you about wildlife and nature from out on my walks. Whilst we look at these beautiful images, which, I mean, I could just sit here and not say anything and just flip through. This is interesting actually. You see drawings, like sketches, before she actually took to turning them into her artwork. The chaffinch, hedge sparrow, and the garden daffodil. Yeah, I don't know about you all, but I am having a wonderful time right now just looking at these images. This is absolutely wonderful to be doing. So Evie, thank you so much for the the request to do this video, and yeah, I'm enjoying myself. I just, yeah, nature and flowers and just greenery, and yeah, I think, yeah, it's what I'm all about. For a long time, I've been really into nature and outdoors in real life, and then yeah, it came to junk journals, and shabby chic, lace and pink and everything was what I first was drawn to, because I love those as well, don't get me wrong. But as time's gone on, I've realised more and more that yeah, my crafting is linked to my mood and the time of year. I have said that, but through it all, flowers, botanicals, leaves, nature, I just think will always be a part of it for me. It's funny, it's like you get a little bit emotional looking at the beauty of these images sometimes, because it's just absolutely magical. And this is exactly what our country is all about. If you look past all of the news which, trust me, I try to avoid on a daily basis, and you simply just think about what is the UK and what do we love about it. And for me, it will always be the outdoors. I've always said we do get a lot of rain, more so as the years have gone by, but we do get a lot of rain. But it keeps our landscapes green and lush and beautiful. And, we get all sorts of flora and fauna and birds and just all sorts. So you can see here, if you remember from the first book, this image is similar to the May cover image with the nest and these beautiful hyacinths. But the style is very different in this book. But as I say, for me, it's the novelty of not seeing these images quite as much as the first one. Here we have some more hawthorn blossom and small tortoiseshell butterfly. That's very beautiful. And then of course, if you look at the images, some of them are full page images that just don't need anything doing to them. And some of them, like here, are nice fussy cut images. Depending on what you want to use it for. And you'll often find with the Edith Holden books is they are stitched in normally. Sometimes you don't, like if it's a paperback version, it will likely be glued, or if it's a newer copy. I believe they were publishing these books up until the late 1990s, maybe early 2000s. And they got they started off as stitched and then it became glued. These versions, which I believe these are from the 70s, 1977 is when it got published, and I believe I have got copies from 77 or 78, and they are stitched. So you'll see here the strings, and it's a case of if you cut these, you'll be able to take out full double pages to be used for things. There we are. This is one of my favourite images from this version. So I'm just going to reach over and see if I can just pop a light on. Grey clouds come overhead. Yes, this is one of my favourite images from this particular book. The Moon Daisies, I love that name, and the pink and white clovers. And yellow rattle, I assume, is this one. I suppose it does look a little bit like a snaky. This is the cover of one of my file folders that I'm working on at the moment. Some more foxgloves and ferns. So yeah, I realised this is probably going to be a little bit of a lengthy video, which is why I thought I would do Edith Holden first, as you know, its own video, and then we'll move on to some other botanical books in a series of videos that I personally use. Ooh, wild strawberries and whortleberries. I don't know if we still call them those now. I do recognise them. According to Edith, they're called whortleberries, which I shouldn't laugh really, but there are some funny names for these things sometimes. The common yellow vetch and tufted purple vetch. So yeah, some of these images I would not try to fussy cut at all, but they would make beautiful envelopes, beautiful pages, decorating book page pockets, you know. This, you'll see the videos for these. I've been using these images to actually fussy cut around and use these as pockets in my file folders, so a little tuck spot. Because if you've got an illustrative image that's strong enough, you know, once you actually cut around these things, you might find some strength to it, which you can then use as fussy cut pockets, is my name for them. Don't know if that's the official name, but that's what I'm calling them. So you will see those videos soon. I just want to get a couple of videos for the file folders filmed before I start showing them, so there's no like I want them to be, you know, part 1, part 2, part 3, so that there's no gap in between, because if you are following along, then it might be nice to see them, you know, all together as opposed to separately. Oh, the Dartmoor pony and foal. Yes, that's one thing. I don't know if people know this about the UK, but in the Dartmoors, which is in Devon, and in the New Forest, which is in Hampshire, and I'm sure it's the case for other places in the UK as well, but those are the two counties that I'm familiar with down south. And yeah, we have wild ponies that just, hundreds of them, that wander around. So you'll just see them grazing in the fields or by the sides of roads, walking through the woodlands, just wild ponies. And that's something that I love about the country as well. And you know, they just go about their business. They're so used to cars and humans that they don't bat an eyelid really. And you might sometimes see them wandering around towns and villages. So aren't those poppies beautiful? Really bright scarlet. And the little bunny rabbits. So yeah, these ponies. There's a village called Burley Village, which is in the New Forest. Now it's actually associated with like sort of witches and dragons and that type of thing. I have written a blog post about it because it's quite an interesting village in that sense. But yeah, the last time that I visited, the New Forest ponies, as they're locally named, they were just wandering through the high street, which is where they have little like shops that are just perfect for mooching in, all in thatched cottages. And yeah, they had these ponies just wandering through. Isn't this beautiful? Fruit of the hawthorn and wild service tree. Now I couldn't tell you what a wild service tree is today, whether it's still called that, but so yeah, as you can see, you get a mix of the text font and the italicized font in this version, which is a shame. It's a shame they didn't go for the original handwriting in both copies. I don't know why they changed that, because obviously this Nature Notes version, beautiful squirrel, was published afterwards, so they changed things in between the first one and this one. We don't get so many red squirrels anymore. They got chased away by the grey squirrels, but you can find them on the Isle of Wight and Brownsea Island, I think it's called, which is, you know, they're not far from the UK, so red squirrels managed to get there. I'm sure there's from other islands as well that you find red squirrels on, but we have grey squirrels. They sort of took over, really. The crab apples, wild, sloe and bullace. Is anyone thinking about seeing those images and making some cider and sloe gin? Because that's what my thought is when I hear of those types of fruits. Well, I'm having a whale of a time, so I'm just talking about my favourite country, my home, and Edith Holden at the same time. I mean, yeah. I think I might just stop crafting and just do these videos all the time. I'm absolutely joking, of course, but it is nice to be able to do this and share this with you. So I will make this a habit going forwards. It's going to be useful for me as well to remember names of books that I've enjoyed working with. So before I dismantle books to start a project, I will make sure that I do show you them. There's that December images, that's the front cover image. You have the blackbird, the robin, hedge sparrows, blue tit, there's the sparrows and blue tit, ivy and holly. Gets you in the mood for Christmas, doesn't it? Shouldn't be talking about Christmas just yet, but I am actually doing a Christmas in July collab in July, obviously, which is hosted by Carol Ann from Cadge Crafts. So I'll be doing a video or two for that, just because, why not? But I won't make it a habit of thinking about Christmas this early. And there's the white or the barn owl. Apparently it's referred to as either name. And you do get some handwriting. There you are. It's just a shame they didn't use the handwriting throughout the book like the original. And as I say, you don't get the index pages, so that is the last. So I hope you've enjoyed seeing those two books. And I said as well, didn't I, about this this magazine article that came in my copy. So I'll read you some snippets of it. I won't read the whole thing because I'm probably not allowed to, copyright and all that. But I'll read you some of the parts that I've read, which I found really interesting. So it says, Edith Holden meticulously recorded the seasonal changes in the English countryside and brought them to life in the country diary of an Edwardian lady. Yet if it hadn't been for the foresight of her great niece, we may never have shared its delights. So I'll just read you some quotes from Rowena Stott. This is Edith's great niece. Actually, it's a miracle really that the diary ever survived. My mother gave it to me when I was a child because I loved wildlife. I used to copy out the illustrations for practice. I'm amazed that I didn't draw all over it. Edith was a great animal lover, and she spent her holidays cycling around the countryside and then recording what she saw and how she felt. My mother said that she was a loving, rather genteel lady and quite modest. You can tell an awful lot about a person from reading their observations of life, and this is basically what the country diary of an Edwardian lady is. The diary gives us an insight, not just a history, of how life was in 1906 through the eyes of an ordinary person. And the illustrations are beautiful. Mind you, I'm not sure if Edith would have been too pleased that of all her work, this manuscript became so famous. She never expected anyone other than the children she taught to see it. Isn't that interesting? It does go on, but yeah, I think I'm probably not allowed to read the whole article, but I just thought that part about Edith was very interesting, and actually about how the great aunt came to be, to have the book given to it as a child. I mean, yes, it's a miracle, she says. If that had been in my hands, I'm sure I would have. No, I was pretty good about my books. I did look after them, but yeah, any other child may have just scribbled in them or torn the pages out. I don't know. So yeah. Anyway, I will leave it there. Thank you ever so much for joining me. I hope you did enjoy that slightly different video. Evie, I hope that was helpful for you to see the insides. As I mentioned, I will do some more flip throughs of my books as they come. As I say, I do have some more on order that are due to be coming in the next sort of few weeks. Different books, different botanical books. So I'll probably film a separate video for each, because these videos do turn out to be quite long, especially with my little narrations about the UK, which I can't help doing when I look at stuff like this. It's just where my mind wanders to. So yes, I will endeavour to show you my books as I have them, and the books that I love to use. And yeah, we'll make a habit of doing that going forward. So aside from that, I will leave you with the joys of Edith, and I will see you on the next video. Bye for now. Have a lovely day.